Where do you stand in terms of expectations for this team to really compete with Buffalo in the division, as well as make a run back to the playoffs in the AFC?
Look, if Buffalo's defense looks like it did for most of the time that Sean McDermott's been there, bounces back a little, to me, they're the AFC favorites. They're right there with KC, and I don't think the Patriots stand up to that on either side of the ball. But on defense, they've added so much talent. I think all the attention was on the offense, but their defense was more disappointing, had a bigger collapse last year. And to me, with Bill Belichick's track record, the secondary that they have, and the pieces that they have in the front seven, like that should be a top 10 defense. That should be potentially a top 5 defense. So if they get a decent offense out of Cam Newton or Mac Jones, I think they're a wild card type of team. I think they bounce back a little bit from where they were last year.
Gregg Rosenthal joins the show. Ben Lyons in for Rich, the Rich Eisen Show. I can't believe we're 48 hours away or so from football. We're going to have the Hall of Fame game this week. TJ's Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yesterday, Mike Florio was on, and we were talking about how the situation in Pittsburgh could turn pretty ugly pretty fast. What are you expecting from Pittsburgh as Big Ben heads into his last season?
You know, Mike, my old boss, he's kind of a closet Steelers fan. He went to school there. He grew up there. I think, Steelers fans are thinking that, thinking the worst-case scenario. I try to take a look back and remember this team won 12 games last year. If you just stack up their front seven talent on defense, I'd put it with any team in the NFL. If you stack up their skill position talent, receivers, tight ends, running back, now with Najee Harris, I'd put it with top 5 of the NFL. I also look at Mike Tomlin's track record, literally never had a losing record, and I think people are assuming that things are going to fall apart a little too quickly. The offensive line can't get worse. I'm not saying they're the AFC North favorites, but I've just learned not to count out this Tomlin team, and they tend to do better in seasons if you look through their history under Tomlin, where people aren't expecting much. And I think they'll be right there as a potential playoff team.
Let's head to the NFC, Greg. I'm a big Rams fan out here in Los Angeles. Devastating news, obviously, with Cam Akers. What can we expect from Matthew Stafford? I have no idea if he's truly elite, will get them over the top in the toughest division in football, or if they're going to be, squandering to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know either. I live in LA too now, and so my daughter's a big Rams fan. I let her kind of just jump sides from my Patriots. I think the expectation's so high for Stafford that it's almost a little unfair. The defense, to me, is probably going to take a step back just because they were so good, and you're replacing Brandon Staley with Raheem Morris. I think Stafford is more of a test on Sean McVay, because I feel like we know who Stafford was. If he was, to use your word, elite, we'd know by now. He's been in the league for a decade. Doesn't mean he can't be incredibly productive and be a top 7, 8 type of quarterback. But to me, it's on McVay to make this work. They showed a lot of faith in that offensive line by not making any changes. They believe in that offensive line, and I certainly think, from what I hear about Deshaun Jackson, how he's looked at training camp, and the receivers that they have enough weapons, and they have a coach that I think has a lot of confidence in his ability to scheme up plays. But I don't see them as some heavy favorite. To me, that's the best division in football. And I don't see them really any different than a year ago. The difference to me is that the 49ers should be much better. So I think there's 3 teams in that division that all have a chance to win the conference, and that's tough when you have to play each other 2 times each.
Gregg Rosenthal joins the show, NFL Network Around the League podcast. Ben Lyons in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show. You went from the best division in football, the NFC West, to was no doubt the worst division last season, the NFC East. When you look at the NFC East with TJ's Dallas Cowboys, do you see them as the favorite in the division, or are you rolling with Rich and the Washington football team?
I'm with Rich. I mean, it's his show, so I guess I got it.
Come on, Greg. You can say whatever you want.
He's not here.
Come on, Greg. We could have breakfast for dinner. We can do whatever we want.
No, I do agree with Rich. Although, you know what? I'm not I work for the NFL. I'm not allowed to, pick these but I can make predictions. I'm surprised that the Eagles and the Giants are such big underdogs in this division if you kind of look at the odds. To me, any one of these 4 teams could have a chance because things could go sideways with Washington. But I've watched such a boring Washington team for 20 years now, and I think the talent that Fitzpatrick has around him, I think their offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, is actually pretty underrated, can dial up some good plays. That with that defense, to me, they are the favorite because they are the most complete teams. But if you told me we're going into Week 16 and all 4 of these teams are near 500, and they all have a shot, and that's including the Eagles, who have a pretty good-looking defensive line, a great-looking offensive line. Like that wouldn't shock me either if this is like a 4-8 race.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.